Tell us more about this project. This is a two-bedroom house that we are sitting in. Tell us more about how you are an architect. How do you design a project like this?
It primarily starts around living, presuming that you are going to be living. Now here in this case we try to make it different. We presume that we are the children.
Okay.
And how I would like to spend a day as a child, coupled with what my parents would like me to spend. So here, most of our clients that we have already, like the first phase is 164 units. Totally, cumulatively, it's around 500 units. We have already sold at this initial stage 90 plus units. Majority of the customers are working couples. Now, when it is a working couple, they are spending most of the time at the offices. They're always worried about what the child is doing back home. So we got into the child's shoes, we got into the parents' shoes, and as designers and builders, we crafted the project around how a child will spend his entire day in the project. But to elaborate further would mean the parents waking up the child, he getting ready for school, coming down waiting. Now, once he's waiting, either he's waiting outside the campus or wherever it is, there is a fear amongst parents, whether he's in a safe environment. Plus, with number of buildings, the pickup point has been created at a centralized place near the exit, which has surveillance, security surveillance, the electronic version. Plus, in addition, it is being supervised by the human interface of security. So, under the eyes of the security, it's a covered space, part of the complex, where a child is enticed to come well in advance because of bus waiting or school bus waiting for the fifth child or the sixth child, the child in a building which is possibly 300-400 meters away. There's no way of communication so easy, and plus he is holding up the other children who have already reached there. So here we will be providing some play equipment. We will be this is the only place where we'll be providing a TV with pogo channels and whatever the channels, so it has to ensure that he comes in early. Now once he is left for school, similarly his drop is within the campus. Now the entire path of his to his house is through the podium garden. A totally traffic free zone. Now me as a child, if in case I go back into nostalgic levels, it always meant coming home from school, dumping the school bag, if necessary, just about doing the essential homework and spending my time playing. That is where, you know, that the sportsman or whatever the physical status of a child develops into an external outdoor person, and without having to go through the rituals of later on of gym and all those forced exercises, automatically he's been brought in a culture where sports is part of his life. Now here, to wean him away from PlayStations and TV and all those gadgets in general, we have ensured that there are sports all the way. And if in case I were to describe a few of them, I would start with tennis, I'll start with basketball, there is futsal, there is badminton, there is volleyball, there is squash, there is a yoga room, there's billiards, table tennis, you name the sport, skating rink. And plus, in addition, for an avid runner like me, a jogging track which is half a kilometer in length where he could be doing loops. Now, all this will ensure for that child, 10 plus child, that everything is available. For the younger children, naturally, we have the kids' play area. For the toddlers, you know, where there's a creche and a toddlers' play area separately. So even the parents could be 100% focused upon work when they are at work, without even giving a second thought to what the child is doing back home. So this makes a difference both in terms of efficiency over there at workplace, and plus from the child's perspective, I think I'm sure we'll be rearing some few lovely national players out of our campus.
We look forward to that.
Yeah.
So Rajesh, what makes your concept of design different as a developer here?
See, as a group, like now we're a profile group, the best part is all the directors or the team which is doing it, actually doing the project, are either architects or engineers.
Okay.
Now we, having our background being of actual real estate to the core,
Yeah.
right from our education times, we try and see the function. May everything else could follow later.
Yeah.
Typically what this would mean is it is placing the furniture and then building the walls around it.
Okay.
Seeing that the cohesiveness of the house, the connect of the house is immediate. The moment a person comes out of his her room, he is in connect with the rest of the house. The kitchen, where the housewife could be spending a little more time as compared to the others, is part of the living space.
Yeah.
She is in connect with the rest of the house. It is, nobody has to scream, nobody has to yell. It is all soft-spoken people, to a level where the quantum of passage, this house that you're seeing, is around 70 odd square meters in terms of usable area. But the quantum that goes in the passage is 1 meter by 1.5 meter. That's it. Our module for planning is not square feet. It is square inch. How to optimize every square inch of space and see that the value given to the client is maximum. You know, these passages, personally as an architect, I hate them. As a user, I'm sure even you would have experienced the claustrophobic feel within them. You know, that walking between two walls, it is criminal.
Yeah.
And criminal waste of per square feet or per square meter rate that is the client is shelling out towards that. So that's what we control. Clothes drying is always in a niched area attached to the kitchen, where the utility space comes in, and that never forms part of the 4 elevations. It's in a niche.
Yeah.
So you won't see even a single cloth, any of the clothes being kept up for airing or drying.
Yeah.
We focus upon rather than multiple balconies, having a major space attached to the living, wherein your 4 chairs, your coffee table, etc. You would love to spend time there. Your morning has to start there. It's the connect with nature that we try and invite by virtue of this planning. Again, I'm sure we live in it, we perceive it, we incubate it, and then we deliver it. That's how the process, being professionals, comes into play.
You see, today, if you look at what's happening today vis-a-vis what was happening a few years ago, the consumer has a very limited budget. They're younger consumers, new in their the workforce. So the amount of disposable money that they have to buy the houses is shrinking. And consumers look at budgets rather than square feet today. What fits into my budget? What is the total outflow for a house? In which case, what we've noticed is that the sizes of the houses have started shrinking. Homes have become nano. What about Navre houses?
Jay, you tell me one thing. What was the number of white goods in anybody's house 30 years before?
Yeah.
Practically nil. Now every room, you have white goods in it.
Yes.
Whether it's the kitchen, the microwave, the cooking hub, the utility space, washing machine, dishwasher, your TV is in every room, your dining table must for that congregation or buffet arrangement when guests come in. TV is part of the bedroom, study table is part of it. With all this coming into play, it looks glossy. Those nano homes, those micro homes, so these terminologies which have come into play look very glossy when it is on the brochure. Once the client sees the walls coming up or is about to take position, he is taken aback. Is this what I paid for? How will I fit him? You can't actually even properly open a wardrobe. Just because there's hardly any space to stand across, to try and drape a sari for the lady. There's no space unless she stands on the bed and tries to do this. So going towards nano, I don't perceive it that that is the future. I would suggest, if in case somebody has a restricted budget, to maybe move a kilometer further up where the rates would be lower and buy a decent size home. The average shelf life of a house before a person graduates and moves further in life and houses, and the size of it, is typically 20 years.
In an era of shrinking homes, when the consumer has a very tight budget, they are younger and with less disposable income, they want a house of their own, but they have less to spend. So what they look at is the ticket size and not the size of the house. We've seen nano homes coming into play, shrinking sizes of homes. And when consumers say that I bought a house for say 50 lakh or 70 lakh or whatever, the amount of living space that they get is much less than what they had before. How do you tackle it at night?
Well, lifestyles have changed. Jashi, you will remember 30 years ago what lifestyle was and what was the quantum of white goods in a house. I think it's revolutionary. The changes that we see with the invent of white goods, especially if in case I start with the kitchen, the hob, the microwave, the gadgetries within the kitchen, the washing machines, the utilities space is crowded. Or do you want a dryer also the moment you have a washing machine? All this, where will the space come in? Your living spaces. You need a proper dining table. It's no more sit down on the floor and eat. When you're talking of the bedrooms, each bedroom has its own TV, has its own study table, computer, etc. Where is the space? You can't be having a wardrobe opening onto the bed and clashing with it, and there's no space for a lady to drape a sari and see herself. Or say if she has to do it in a nana house, possibly it will be standing on the bed and trying to do that. Now, with all this in mind, there are two ways of beating it. Number one, has to be micro planning. Second aspect is having sizes which are realistic. You know, something may look glossy on paper just because it will match the budget. A room size will look okay, and the furniture on a brochure, whether it has been shown as nano beds or whatever, may look glossy. But the moment you have the walls coming up and the client visiting the site or at position stage, be sure that he's in for angina when nothing fits into that house. And we'll be questioning himself, is this what I paid for? Where do I fit in my this X, Y, Z? He has a huge list of inventory of whatever he needs to get into the house, and the problem starts there. To address the issue of budget, I think we shouldn't go down the route of chopping off budgets. Budgets are something which are temporary in nature. The salaries are going to grow. He should look and take the plunge, because the shelf life of a house, our typical experience with 10,000 homes is around 20 years. 15 to 20 years later, he outgrows it and possibly goes in for a better locale or better size or whatever. But if in case his affinity bond with that house is going to be 15 years and 20 years, I would not like our client to come in with an unhappy note and then torture themselves for 15 years. Hence, we try and provide the right sizes. Right sizes, right value has always been our proposition.
So, how do you match that into budgets then?
As I told you, number one, micro planning. Number two is shrinking only to a particular level. Honestly, if somebody is totally tangential to the pricing that we are looking at, or which is in tune with the market, the rates over here, our sizes maybe a little more. In those circumstances, I would suggest that the client moves a little further up, maybe a kilometer further up where the rates are lower, and doesn't compromise upon size.
Because that impacts your quality of life.
Quality of life for 15, 20 years. Finally, everybody is born with a length over here. If out of that a segment is removed of torture camp, no, I don't think so that person should get into a micro home and then be feeling claustrophobic in it or lost in it.
So what about the external spaces, balconies, verandas and so on?
There is no point in having excessive verandas and balcony spaces, etc. Like I always told you that we have minimal passages.
Yeah.
We believe that each house necessarily needs one small utility area where the clothes drying and etc. the back end operation happens, and one formal sitting space. But not a formal smoking gallery. It has to be a place where a family member can sit out, interact, chat, and connect with the nature around. Typically what happens is the shelf life of a product, in addition to planning, is decided based upon what is inside, definitely for sure how that person is going to live.
Yeah.
But second aspect, which is of equal importance, is the locational. And when we talk of location, whether the basic essentials of life, whether it's school, college, retail, recreation, hospital, God forbid it is required, and your workplace, which is a transit which is to be done daily. With cities, the way they have grown in terms of traffic and commuting, it really means that if that time can be brought down, it is value time back home in the property.
These amenities don't matter.
Exactly, and that's what we have been trying to do. Now what happens is Pune has two engines of growth, or locales of growth, not engines of growth, locales of growth. This would be East Pune and West Pune.
Yeah.
Now as far as West Pune is concerned, this would mean areas bounded by say Hinjawadi, Wakad, little bit of PCMC, Baner, Balewadi, Baudan. This all comprises of what West Pune is. Now we, as far as Avon Vista is concerned, are in the heart of it.
Yeah.
The center point is this.
So it takes you as long to go to your workplace as it takes you to go to the entertainment hubs, go to the shopping hubs, everything.
I would say, if I especially say if in case it's a person staying and working in Hinjawadi. Hinjawadi would mean a 10-minute drive from here. Retail would mean 3 minutes. The best of retail is high street, entertainment, the dining out experience. Now this all is a 3-minute drive from this place. So locational advantage is as paramount as the design of a house. You could be living in some end of town and then commuting every day 2 hours either ways, and I think you've lost the plot of all the amenities and specifications that were provided.
Rajesh, as I sit here, I can see there is a highway here, there's the river in the background, you have your clubhouse coming up here. And I understand that you're giving the clubhouse to your residents even before the houses are ready. Help me understand this concept, it's very unique.
See, what our thought process was, like the first phase will be complete in the middle of 2020. But as far as clubhouse is concerned, possibly by Diwali. So Diwali 2018, it will be ready. Now clubhouse won't be in isolation. It will be with all the sports amenities that we are looking at, whether it's the tennis court, futsal, skating rink, or majority of these, the squash, the billiards, the yoga room. The concept was, we want the clients to be coming to the site, which they do. Yeah. Not that they don't go to other projects. But while they go to other projects, it's just a matter of maybe being there for a photo stop. A few minutes, they've seen it from outside or from the road itself. Here, what we want is they should be coming and spending practically half a day. The children should be coming and playing. There'll be some sort of a food arrangement made in this clubhouse so that they can spend value time. Now, it's two aspects that where you are looking at value time. Number one is they are connecting with the neighbors, which potential neighbors, rightly said, as compared to taking possession and after a year and a half trying to find out who the neighbor is. So when one of the 10 commandments is love thy neighbor and you don't even know who he is. So here in this case, let them connect. We want social interaction amongst them. We want the children to be actually living and experiencing the sports facilities which they will be having. So even before possession, they have worked upon it further hard at school or at the play area. One more thing, Jayashree, I would like to interject and add is a lovely evening that we call as patrons meet. Which happens possibly every 3 to 4 months. We get in all the clients who are booked in now. So in this case, it's around 90 clients. So getting 90 families together over dinner A little bit of talk we address. We address about the technology, we address about solar systems, we address about the quantum. They ask us questions, technical questions about real estate and the construction technologies. That is something which is binding the community, this sort of event.
So you're actually creating communities, not just selling houses.
Absolutely. You won't believe that 3 days ago, we celebrated the World Environment Day over here with the families who have booked coming and planting trees.
Oh, how nice.
The affinity of a particular sapling that is growing, that this was planted by me 10 years later. The connect with the tree, the connect with the project, the connect with the people will be so high. I think we're trying to create not houses but homes.
Yes.
And not only homes but a community of homes and a community of people.
Help me understand the profile of your buyers.
It's mostly working couples. Age group would be around 35 to 45 bandwidth. Which means that the children are back home with them. So that's where the child-focused amenities that we talked about, or the lifestyle of a child, or a day spent by a child, which would mean a replica every day, how that would be. With working couples, more, I think quite a few would possibly, I think around 50 to 60% would be from the IT sector or the banking sector. The rest would be core industry or salaried people, but I think it is gonna, we have seen them interact during these events. They connect with each other. Builders normally try and keep consumers or clients away from each other. What if they gang up? You say, let them gang up. Let them give their suggestions to us. We are here to follow. Finally, it's not for us we are creating. We are just the medium. We are creating for them. Let them be involved. Let that community happen. And no, we are least bothered about ganging up.
Are they from Pune itself, or do they come from different parts of the country to work in Pune?
A majority of it would be from Pune, to be honest. Of course, it is garnished by a few consumers from Mumbai, Navi Mumbai, Satara, Kolhapur. We do have that, but then that's just a garnishing level to the core of Pune.
How many of them actually live in these houses? Are they end users? Do you have people who invest in these houses?
Now, out of the 90 families who have booked over here, my guesstimate would be 100% are end users.
How nice. Which means that each of them has come here and has a connect with the house that they're buying.
Absolutely. So all of these guys are end users. They know they are already in love with the project. The more we talk to them about it, the more excited they are about it. And we, as a group, have always believed in brochures to be understatements.
Okay.
To go beyond what has been committed, and I'm sure we will be doing the same concept with the legacy of 30 years, 10,000 customers, between itineraries and profile, maybe around 80 odd projects completed. Finally, the humane touch and the genuine touch is something that we always feel proud about.
Help me also understand, how long does the consumer stay in your house, and at what time does he upgrade?
Typical experience of this 30 years, unless it is for job opportunity where a person had to leave or sell off or migrate to US or whatever the reason. If in case he is within Pune, we feel around 15 to 20 years is the normal lifespan of a person in the house, in that particular house. After 15 to 20 years, there is a high possibility of him growing beyond the space that has been provided. Here, if in case we are looking at, as I told you, it's younger children coming in. So I perceive while the first child gets married, there's a possibility that the space may fall short. That's the space. And the best part is the upgrade possibility, unless it's a 4-bedroom and beyond, the options are all available within the project. So the 2-bedroom guy need not be looking outside. Within the project, possibly he'll buy a resale unit 15 years later.
Rajesh, this is an unusual location for us to shoot a project. Normally we go for completed projects, but with your request, I'd like to understand the thought process behind showing consumers how their houses are being built.
When we always believe that the consumer should come in right at stage one or the initial stages of the project, the affinity is far, far, far higher when he's seen it, when he's got a little bit of ideas of customization and we are there to deliver that. The project becomes his, the sense of belongingness is there. It's like seeing a sapling grow and blossom into a huge tree. This is something which happens over here. As far as the site is concerned, there are few locales where he is allowed to move around, guided. But if in case it is inside where the work is happening, it is not guided, it is supervised. We ensure his safety. We do take him there. Finally, he has always a question as to, "Mere ghar se kya dikhega?" That sort of question is actually going there, getting a feel of it. It helps a lot.
So, like Avon had heart. Similarly, your consumers will also
200%. Otherwise, beyond this pathway, they are not allowed. Even the workers have a right to usher them back into that zone.
Rajesh, we were talking about the locality, the location of your project. How does a consumer select the location of his project?
Well, as we were previously discussing, it's paramount as to the functional status of the house within. On an equal note, similar paramount status would be of the location. To have a lovely house and then look at a couple of hours of commuting. Well, as far as this project is concerned, there are two locales of growth in Pune where major growth is happening. East Pune, West Pune. We are in West Pune. West Pune would mean area bounded by Hinjewadi, Wakad, Baner, Balewadi, Baudan, Pashan. This way all comprises of West Pune, which is such a lovely neighborhood or portion of a part of Pune where anything and everything is within. A person staying here, unless he wants to go to the airport, he wouldn't have to get to the other side of town. Having said so, this project per se, Avon Vista, is possibly the heart of West Pune.
So what is the name of this locality?
This is Balewadi Malunge zone, which is the center. If in case I'm talking of Hinjewadi is possibly a 10 minutes drive from here. If I'm talking of retail, entertainment, schools, colleges, hospitals, all of them would be within a few minutes from this.
5 kilometer radius?
Within that is what, as far as the retail, schools, etc. are concerned, well within a 5. To buy a house and then spend 2 hours commuting each way, I think it's a non-starter. In spite of that house being perfect, within 6 months or a year, you would have started the questions coming in, why did I buy here?
And the amenities don't matter then?
Absolutely. So it's both these things have to be balanced perfectly as to both the amenities and the location. Otherwise, I think each element will destroy the joy of the other. There's no point driving 2 hours and then coming home. Acha, now do I play squash? When you're dead tired, you won't have the energy levels to do so, or you won't enjoy it to that level.
Give me 3 points that a consumer should keep in mind when he or she is buying into a locality.
The location is paramount, as we said. Second is the legacy of a builder in terms of deliverables. Like I told you, normally you hear about amenity and the common spaces coming up last or maybe delayed further. Here we are doing them first. We are ensuring that this happens first, number one. As far as the product, he has to be very choosy. As far as the architecture, the planning, the layout, all this cumulatively create the baggage of a decision being taken, a decision in the right direction.
And if I can summarize what you said, you're saying that the locality should be close to your workplace, not more than half an hour to drive there. It should be close to amenities, like schools, hospitals, entertainment and retail centers.
True.
It should also be a place where the neighborhood is in sync with your taste, and it should have like-minded people in that.
And the project should be one where you're awaiting your school, college to get over. I want to get back home.
Yes.
You know, that sort of craving, that itch, the desire, that should be there every day, and not for just the first year. It should be maintained, sustained, retained. You know, we have a lovely division called Property Management Division,
Yes.
where that sustenance, retainance, maintenance all comes into play, where the project should look probably what it was when it was handed over, even possibly 5 years later, 10 years later.
And so here we have a group which wants you to love coming home. They want to bring you home, bring you to the amenities, to the quality of life, and to the neighborhood.